Thank you, Peg. Thank you, Johanna. Is the volume okay? Okay. So welcome everyone to tonight's talk at Mountain Cloud, late April 2022. 2 months and 5 days since the invasion of Ukraine began. According to recent measure, about 120 years since global warming began, and beyond measure, the inception of suffering. Instead of checking the news this morning, I sat with signs of beauty and solidarity. 2 weeks into the invasion, Yo-Yo Ma playing Bach in front of the Russian embassy. Concerts around Europe with Ukrainian refugees performing in the orchestra and singing in the choir. The outpouring of individual and collective response to the war, to the warming planet, to suffering in many forms. The first ennobling truth looms large. There is suffering. And alongside it, the Buddha's teaching. The Dharma is beautiful at the beginning, beautiful in the middle, beautiful at the end. No evasion, no exclusion, suffering, beauty. How can it be? Last night, I offered a Q&A for the Sanbo Zen sangha in Gainesville, Florida, whose members often come to MC gatherings. I see some tonight. It's lovely to see this cross-pollination. Just this wide open zendo without walls. So the questions last night were about suffering and what this practice does to address it. The heart of the matter. Or as one question put it, does it matter? Koans speak to this. They address us in a language beyond words, a language that is utterly selfless and that points directly to who we truly are. A language that resolves the matter of suffering without in the least abandoning this world. These past 2 Thursdays, Henry's been talking to us about koans, how they tend to inhabit the world of things, how koans take up things a step closer than words to show us by direct experience what things are, what we are made of, to show us infinitely, irreducibly, what they and we are. So deep, deep thanks to Henry for these very clear and helpful talks. To be continued. For tonight, I'd like to turn to a koan that surfaced in the wake of Henry's talks. It doesn't take up a thing, but instead points to each thing just as it is, and to the fundamental reality that makes it so. Looking for my koan. This is case 98 in the Book of Equanimity, or Shoyoroku, Tozan's most intimate. The case. A monk asked Tozan, among the three bodies of the Buddha, what body does not degenerate into numbers? Tozan said, I am always most intimate with it. End of case. This exchange is with Master Tozan Ryokan, the well-known 9th century master, co-founder of the Soto school, student of Nansen, Isan, and Ungan, from whom he received Dharma transmission. Tozan's long practice had him going from one teacher to another, great masters, continually pursuing the essential matter, experiencing this world more and more deeply, but still not satisfied. Early on as a youth, Tozan read the Heart Sutra and was struck by the words, no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body. Tozan asked his teacher, I have eyes, ears, a nose, a tongue, a body? Why does the sutra say there is none? His teacher saw in this not just a child's question, but an insight, the fertile question. So he sends him on to another master, an elder. Later, with the national teacher, Tozan hears the teaching that inanimate things expound the Dharma. And again, he's perplexed. The wall tiles are preaching. Why can't I hear it? He takes his question to Isan. Isan holds up his whisk. Do you understand? That's it. Tozan doesn't get it. I don't understand. Please explain it to me, Isan says. Excuse me, that's Tozan. I don't understand. Please explain it. And then comes this line from Isan, wonderful. The mouth that my parents gave to the world is utterly unable to explain this to you. It's not that he can't explain it. This is a koan, beyond words, before knowing. What is this stick? Can you hear it? Years ago, I was at a session in Germany, a student. And a few days in, I was standing, looking out a large window, upper window, down at a courtyard. The yellow wall of a building, just where it met the clay tile roof. A garden in bloom, then a river below and wooded hillside across the way. Each bit of the view, each surface, as diaphanous as sound and as precise as perfect pitch. Each single thing empty, lacking any substance, and at the same time, utterly complete, one entirety. What language could possibly convey that? Music seemed closest, but it was elusive. Koans. Tozan goes on to be a disciple of Ungan. He asks his question about things proclaiming the Dharma. And Ungan quotes a line from a sutra. He asks, aren't you familiar with this? Here's the line. The lakes and rivers, the birds, the forests, they all chant Buddha. They all chant Dharma. Tozan probably had read the sutra, but this time the words go right through him. He hears it as a koan and experiences what the record calls a great insight, an awakening. Here's the verse he writes. How incredible, inanimate things proclaiming Dharma is inconceivable. It can't be known if the ears try to hear it. But when the eyes hear it, then it may be known. When the eyes hear it. What are your eyes? Where are they? Hearing with the eyes, seeing with the ears, intimate. This isn't the end of Tozan's study, but it shines in his teaching. A monk asks Tozan, among the three bodies of the Buddha, what body does not degenerate into numbers? Tozan says, I am always most intimate with it. So just a note about these three bodies of the Buddha in Mahayana tradition, just these three ways that the Buddha manifests. The Dharmakaya, emptiness, shunyata, essential reality, wisdom, vast and void. The Sambhogakaya, the realization or receiving of wisdom, sometimes also called the bliss body or reward body. And then the Nirmanakaya. This is responding to wisdom, expressing it. And this mode includes the physical representation of Shakyamuni Buddha, the Buddha. More simply put, you could think of these three bodies as the body itself, the way it appears, and the way it functions. The monk who comes to Tozan looks around and sees all these bodies as separate. Cushion, computer, pen, floor, lamp, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching. He asks, what does not degenerate into numbers? How many things have I named so far? What cannot be enumerated, divided, organized? Is there anything that is not fixed in categories, identified by distinction? Anything not subject to counting, measuring, comparing? Maybe the monk is asking, is there anything that is whole, complete, irreducible? Does such a thing exist? Tozan doesn't just answer. He shows, he presents, he is. I am always most intimate with it. Or in another translation, I am always most keenly with it. Migaku Sato did these translations, and even the word intimate somehow wasn't close enough. So he's trying on this keenly. Last week in his talk, Henry turned to the awakening exclamation of Shakyamuni Buddha. From the top of heaven to the bottom of the earth, I alone. This, Henry emphasized, this is a koan. By virtue of its inclusion, of course, in the collections, and by its capacity, its activity. I alone, one indivisible entirety, that I has dissolved into infinite boundlessness. Gone, gone, gone. And yet, here we are. There is no other emptiness than this. Exactly this. I am always most keenly with it. Could not be more intimate. This is my body, my own body, one fact, one functioning. Wherever I turn, whatever I pick up, a thing, a thought, a sensation, closer than my own heartbeat. How could we possibly number or quantify this existence. Put any number there, and it's whole. It's the whole story. It's complete, all consuming, occupying everything, and everything springing from it. Everything springing from it. I do not exist apart from all sentient beings or insentient, every speck of dust. Whatever arises is a function of this fact, this bat, this body, this head, just this one. Kaizon, Master Kaizon's verse to Shakyamuni Buddha's other awakening exclamation could fit here as well. You know, the amazing call. I and the great earth and all beings simultaneously attain the way. It's another way of saying, I alone. Kaizon's verse, one branch extends splendidly forth, that one, that all, no speck, no seed. And then Kaizon writes, at the same time, thorns come forth. Such wondrous thorns. Stick, mat, light, floor, chest. We're tired, happy, anxious. Always most intimate with it, always most keenly with it. Even the with is extra. Thich Nhat Hanh said, for things to reveal themselves to us, we need to be ready to abandon our views about them. That's the practice, the wide invitation. That whole grid, that whole scaffolding. It's arbitrary. And it's a great relief to let it just even widen or become more transparent. Just the view opens. That's the practice. And then there's the unguarded moment, the absolute now. The reality that we're fully immersed in right now. That reality breaking through. You can't do it. It doesn't. One student described a glimpse recently. She and a friend had hiked for a few hours in a tall wooded forest. Then they drove on past more beautiful scenery. And at one bend in the road, she looked up and saw a plant. It was a variety of succulent she didn't recognize. As she put it, suddenly the whole world collapsed into that plant. And there was just plant. One green, succulent plant. That's it. Where was she? Another longtime practitioner recently returned from 4 days in the desert, kind of pilgrimage, maybe vision quest. So a small group gathered, for several days of support, bonding, and orientation, and then each one headed out with only a pallet for sleeping, clothing, and water. The student, a caregiver in healing occupations, amazing resume, a lover of the world. She took with her a question. She said, I didn't know I had. Am I loved? So loving. But the question, am I loved? On a full moon night, really, really so lovely for her, it happened to be her birthday. She received what she called the teaching of reflection. That full moon, clear mirror, sitting in the sand, gazing at a cactus. She said, I love you. To the rocks, the sand, the scraggly desert bushes. And then she heard the words, as you love, so are you loved. Quite a reflection. The cactus she's gazing at, as she described it, was whole moon luminous. Its thorns, she said, turned to gold. Like the thorns on that one branch that extends. I feel at home, she said, celestial and feet on the ground. Top of heaven to the bottom of the earth. One existence. Intimate. Always most keenly with it. One more brief account from a man who, practicing with Mu, had a taste of this intimacy. He wrote, I trudged through the fresh snow to the beach this afternoon. So it's not that long ago. Had a good laugh and then some tears. there were sea ducks diving, watching them emerge suddenly, sparkling, feeling them erupt inside me. I caught a glimpse of the love that holds us. Feeling them erupt inside me. Those sea ducks. The love that holds us. He said, tears and laughter then. It doesn't have to be tears and laughter. It doesn't have to be in the desert or in the redwoods. It just really only has to be you now. You now. Empty hands, open heart, at home in deep belonging, keenly with this real world. This isn't a matter of accomplishment. You cannot number this existence. It just is. It thoroughly is. And it's your native ground. The author and activist Bell Hooks, who died this past year, is known for her writing on love. In that book that got re-released upon her passing, All About Love, New Visions, it's called. Hooks writes, a generous heart is always open, always ready to receive our going and coming. In the midst of such love, we need never fear abandonment. This is the most precious gift true love offers. The experience of knowing we always belong. Hooks didn't live to see the massive destruction in Ukraine, but she saw and experienced plenty of suffering. Racism, classism, misogyny, sexism, fear and anger, the toxic othering we are capable of when we don't see who we truly are. This true human body. Just by virtue of your being here. Just by virtue of your practice. You are utterly turned toward this. Fully immersed. It is nowhere outside you. Just this. Does this practice matter? For Tozan, it was a matter of life and death and of great liberation. Free to see and be the intimate and immeasurable freedom that from the beginning includes you. It is you. Thank you so much for listening and for this shared practice. Thank you.